It makes me cry thinking about it. Someone reached out to me on Facebook who has a daughter at Southeastern University who is an RA in the dorms. I don't even know this person well. And she said, Jen, did you know that Southeastern University has a program for Addie? One of the greatest lessons that I have learned through Addie's process is it's taught me a lot about courage, calling, and what it actually means to live significantly.
Some of what we had to bump into and push back against was an ableist mindset, even within the community for intellectually disabled people, that said, well, you'll have an opportunity or you'll be advanced as long as you don't act like you have an intellectual disability. If you got it together more, then you'll have opportunity. I reject that wholeheartedly. This is not about someone's ability or disability. This is about God has a plan.
Yeah. You were made for significance, to experience a vibrant, healthy family, rich, meaningful friendships, and a purpose-filled, prevailing faith. This is your invitation. This is the Significant Life Podcast with Jen and Marcus Jones.
Hello and welcome to the Significant Life Podcast. I'm Jen Jones.
I'm Marcus. Welcome back, Jen.
And we are so excited to talk about actually our oldest daughter today. And if you have been following us for a little while, you know that we have 4 kids and our oldest is 21 years old and she happens to have Down syndrome. We did get a birth diagnosis. And so her whole life has been a beautiful journey with lots of twists and turns because, I really wasn't prepared for this. I didn't know what to expect. It wasn't in what to expect when you're expecting books that I read. But it has been actually a delight. And from the very beginning, we just saw Addie as a person of intrinsic worth. And as a result of that, we believed in so much possibility for her. And so last week we talked about launching our second daughter into college, and that was kind of a traditional path. Not everyone has their own story that's unique to them, but it's a traditional path. And so we actually wanted to talk about the possibilities and what's happening with a neurodiverse, shall we say, a student who has an intellectual disability and what the future can look like for them, because we actually are launching Addie into college.
Yep. And when you say that, it also, when you said what to expect when you're expecting, I think that word expecting or expectation has definitely been something that we've journeyed in, and that this has been both a journey for her, and it's been a huge journey for us as parents. And so one thing that I think probably every parent listening can relate to is that word of expecting. We have dreams, hopes, aspirations, both for our children and for us in the middle of that story. And this is something that we all have to navigate. And so, as you said, we've navigated it with a neurotypical kid, and we are now navigating it once again with our daughter who has Down syndrome. So, yeah.
So obviously, I want this to speak to the parent whose child might have an intellectual disability, but I also hope that people who do not, that is not a part of their story, that they would listen in so that they can actually learn more, because I think that's been one of the greatest gifts for me is I'd never been around anyone that would be considered different until I welcomed Addie into the world, and it's changed my life for the good. So this is like, so it really is for both sides of the parenting spectrum. But again, just like we said with our second daughter, we're telling our side of the story and they can tell their own story. And so the same for Addie. Addie actually does enjoy the spotlight. So I'm sure at some point she is going to share in all of her socials and all of her things with all, whatever. Give her a microphone and she'll share her perspective on the story. But
no doubt about that.
So, but this is our side. And what it's been like as a parent, because, well, our audience is a lot of parents. So we're speaking to the parent today. And I think I want to take us back to when we actually started to begin dreaming about post-secondary kind of education or experiences, communities that Addie could be a part of it. I remember for me, it was probably right around early middle school. What would you say, when did it come on the radar for you and something that you began to kind of dream about along the way for Add?
Yeah, I think probably a similar time frame, but it was probably built upon a desire preceding that Addison be fully included and have every opportunity, right, and live a life of possibility and not be limited or constrained or sidelined in any way. And so initially that started out with just advocacy toward, her inclusion in anything that she wanted to be a part of, whether it was a general education classroom or a sports team or,
dance
serving
class
at church or whatever it might be. And so as she grew, it's kind of amazing. It's like anybody else, when you start taking the lid of limitation off of people and you actually begin going, hey, we have hopeful expectation. It's amazing how people rise to the occasion, and Addison absolutely did, all over the place in so many different ways. And so it was built on that for me. But probably around middle school, I started going, okay, there's life after high school. What's that?
That's right.
Possibility.
Right. Because we always sort of looked just one season ahead. I've tried really hard to not look too far out in the future because it sort of terrifies me at times. And so with all of my kids, actually, but with Addie in particular, it was like, okay, one season ahead. So probably, yes, middle school, I began to say, I began to learn of some college programs and began meeting all of our team meetings with Addie's team. And for those families who have an IEP, an individualized education plan, they know what that means. And we just began saying, okay, that's fine, but what's going to prepare her for like post high school and college? And I think it's important here because sometimes even in those meetings with administrators and specialists and educators, they were not even aware that there were post-secondary programs designed for students with intellectual disability. And this is where you really tapped in. So I think it would be good to take like a minute here to inform people there are actually a lot of programs out there for students with intellectual disabilities or just neurodiverse in some capacity. Can you just talk about that and educate the listener just a little bit? Because I think some people imagine like, oh, Addie's going to college, and hard to wrap your mind around. Fair, was for me too, until we began to do a deep dive on the programs.
Yes. This whole world has opened up so powerfully in recent years. And honestly, there are now something on the order of 150,000 high school students that graduate with an intellectual disability, even a mild intellectual disability, every single year. So there's a huge population of people in the United States that this is impacting, and the concentric circle of their families and everything else. And so post-secondary educational institutions have begun to meet that challenge and say, well, and I think really ask the huge question that we started asking ourselves in these IEP meetings was, what if? Mm-hmm. What if she could do that? What if we
all live like that for all of our lives and all of our kids?
Yes.
But I think sometimes we put limits, and we definitely put limits on people who are like different, which who isn't, but understood this like normalcies of fitting in a box that,
right,
Addie doesn't fit in.
Right. And that, not to rabbit trail, but this is one of the things that we have learned over the course of time is that every single person I know has a special need. Yeah. So it really has said like, wow, okay, like we're all kind of in a similar boat in some ways. What if something could be different? What if there was a opportunity that exceeded what you've done in the past? What if there was an on-ramp to beginning to maybe live independently? What if there was an opportunity for her to have gainful employment that was competitive employment? And so these programs that have come online in recent years have really met that challenge. And now I say they've met the challenge. They are, and many of these guys, doing incredible work around the country. But you know what? It's a small pool of availability. Yes. And so there's need for so much more. But we began to look and explore and go, what if? Right. And I will say we sought out leaders and partners in schools, in classrooms, in principals, in advocates, and other things that were willing to ask the same kind of question. Mm-hmm. And that was a big, big deal, because when it's not to say that there are no obstacles or there are no limitations or there are whatever.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But there is something happens when people step into a situation and start saying, what if? I wonder what would, well, perhaps these are big expectation, hope rising kinds of statements. And so that's how we began to orient toward these things.
Yeah. And then, so once we learned and educated ourselves about the programs and looked at the ones, and we can give resources. I think college is an incredible resource for that. Naively, I was like, great. So I believe so much in Addie. She's so capable. We partnered with an incredible school program in the high school level, a great team. So we're going to apply. And then, this is going to be hard because we're going to have to choose, assuming that she's going to get accepted to all of these programs. So just like every other student, that around their junior year, end of and beginning of senior year, we began the process of filling out applications. I think that first year we did maybe two applications, and I was like, which one wonder which one we'll choose. We went to preview days at both of these schools. These programs have them. And let me just say this, the schools definitely continue the academic and education piece, more toward like a trade or an area like of work readiness, so they can work. There's a heavy emphasis on independent living, like independent living, like how are you cooking and cleaning and
travel,
interpersonal, like community connection, like all of this. So, which those things are some of Addie's greatest strengths. So, when that first year we received not one, but 2 rejections of Addie, I was crushed. Addie was crushed. But again, I'm telling my side of the story. I was crushed. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I have been advocating for this child my whole life. She is so capable. I've been showing up in the world. She's been showing off how like worthy she is. And you don't see it, and you're going to reject her, and you're not even going to accept her into a program that's actually designed for her. Like, how could this be? And so that's really was a huge wake up call, but I think it's good. It was maybe better for refining of my heart. Really powerful to watch my daughter in that moment. But again, as the parent, can you begin to talk a little bit about then what we did with that information, so that what steps we had to take to go like, oh, there's more work to be done here, and how can we prepare?
Yes.
And for this next chapter for Addie.
I think one of the things that, we started to become, super aware of is, there is possibility for a college level program where our daughter could go and be in the dorms and be a meaningful integrated part of living on campus, of, having a full-fledged college experience. Go sit in the student section at the football game and get prepared for work in that is maximally appropriate for you. And everybody, that's a big range for a lot of different people. And the truth is that there was like all this possibility, but then not dissimilarly to how we navigated with our neurotypical daughter when we had a desire for a XYZ college to get the acceptance and then you get the rejection. Man, that's something you gotta deal with. And I think that we met that moment probably in a myriad of different ways. We grieved it hard. We also kind of went like, no, not on my watch.
Great.
Here we go again. We're going to lean in and we're trying again and we're not going to quit. And then we also began to recognize, we began to learn something new, I think, about God, which was many, many times rejection is protection. Mm. And that was in year 1. We're at year 3. This was a journey. Yeah. This is a journey. And looking back at the rejection of year 1, I actually believe fully now that was protection because Addie had room to grow.
Yes. And so that we did follow up. Well, first we followed up with Addie and was like, okay, do you still want to try to do this? Because yes, we are her advocates, and there is a part of her that will always need our support at some level. I mean, probably all kids do, but sure, Addie is going to always need just a little bit extra support and advocacy and things that we are just responsible for. And so, but she has a voice and she has desires and she gets a say. And she was really, really wanted to continue to try. And so we had meetings with both programs that rejected her, with emails. One actually met with us via Zoom, but what's missing here? And they laid out what was missing and skills that she did not possess yet, like public transportation, being away from her family, maybe even in another state for a period of time. She hadn't done anything quite like that. And so we shared the list with her and said, hey, these are things that you'll have to work on. Do you still want to go for it? And she was like, yes, I do. And she was very determined. So,
and just to give you a little snapshot into how Addie operates too, the girl's got some serious grit and determination. And I think there was holding of both things in the moment where there was disappointment. And when I say disappointment, I found in the trash can the sweatshirt of one of the colleges that had rejected her. She had a hoodie and that thing went in the trash because she was disappointed. I fished it out. We'll get to it. But there was also this determination that was like, but you know what? I'm still going to go for it because this is my dream. She used to say that a lot. This is my dream. My dream is to go to college. And that was her thing. So
she began to work on these skills, and then around comes second year of applications. Now, this is the year that her younger sister is applying as well. So there was even more drive for Addie because one of the benefits to inclusion, and then in our home, one of the benefits to having a large tribe is Addie really, I mean, we all desire belonging, and she wants to do what her siblings and even her neurotypical peers are doing. And so like everyone in her little world at high school and now her sister and their friends are all preparing for school and getting ready for college and all of these things. And she's like, me too. So we decided to broaden the reach that year. And I believe we applied to like 5 schools and 2 of the same that we had been rejected from because we were not giving up. And then like 3 others. And we went through the process. And as our one daughter is getting all of her acceptances, yet again, Addie receives out of the 5, she receives 4 rejections. And the 2 schools that have rejected her year 1 also rejected her year 2. We're sending one kid's going off and the other one is rejected from 4, accepted at 1. And the one she got accepted at we didn't actually think was a good fit. And we can talk about what that looked like, but we didn't think it was a good fit at all. But then had to give her the choice. So I don't know, just where are you at with that one?
Yeah.
'Cause that was year 2.
Yeah. And yeah, we didn't think it was a great choice, and neither did Addison.
Right.
And one of the things that was very at the front of our minds was about her own agency in these choices. This is her life. And she had a very clear picture of what it is that she wanted, and she would articulate it. Mm-hmm. It had so much to do for her about the relationships that she wanted to build and form, new friends that she wanted to grow. And so when she would go into an environment, she began to have an intuition, honestly, about like, I don't think this is going to do what I want it to do. And you know what? I think she was right. Yeah. However, to face in a repeat 4 additional like real rejection, really, she had no options, quote unquote. When sister is getting options and getting opportunities, it kind of feels like, well, I'm the oldest, I should be first. And you know what?
Yeah, those are the things that she actually said to us.
And we had to navigate those emotions and those disappointments right along with her, because there's nothing unique to Addison's diagnosis that says, oh, that's the only kind of person that ever gets, the door slammed in their face more than once. No, I mean, and we had to both say, all right, again, year 2, we're disappointed. But you know what started to bubble right back up to the surface was determination. It was one of the first words out of her mouth was, well, I'm going to try again next year.
That's right.
And again, what showed up was rejection, was protection, because that next coming year, as she began to develop, was probably the most that I've ever seen her stretch and grow and have capacity in that moment. It was like, oh, okay, here we go. And so much of that was that determination drive that said, I'm not going to give up on my dream. Yeah. And it was an inspiration to me as a dad. And it's part of what informed year 3 was like, we're going to hang on to this dream, because what if it is this year?
And I think that's one of the greatest lessons that I have learned through Addie's process is it's taught me a lot about courage, calling, and what it actually means to live significantly. It was pretty brave for her, first of all, like to go on all these campuses, because she had to go and tour them. And she's, 4'8" in these college environments. I mean, I was nervous. I would be nervous to like interact with the other parents. And I'm a pretty brave, bold, social person. And oftentimes they would separate us. So here Addie's like going off on these huge college campuses, touring them. They give opportunity for Q&A, and Addie's asking questions and being curious. And I'm just like, I was just in awe of her courage. But it also actually taught me a lot about the call of God on our lives and the path and the plan of God on our lives. I saw that like so clearly with Addie, because I actually back in 6th grade started planning, preparing, and taking all the right steps and doing everything we had to get Addie where we thought she should be. And I will say year 3, we broadened the reach even more. We still applied to those same 2 top schools that we were really passionate about. So 3 years in a row, we applied at those schools. And then we broadened it to 12. So an additional 10 on top of that. And one came on the scene that we'd never even heard about. And it came on the scene actually midway through applying. And someone, it makes me cry thinking about it. Someone reached out to me on Facebook in a message and said, who has a daughter at Southeastern University who is an RA in the dorms. And she said, I don't even know this person well. And she said, Jen, did you know that Southeastern University has a program for Addie? And Southeastern University is a Christian university. It is all the way on the other side of the country. It's in Florida. And that was a hard one for me to wrap my mind around in probably around year 2 was like, okay, how do you send someone across the country? But God was faithful in that. And he used a person who had done it to encourage me. And so, Marcus, you're talking about how God has used different administrators and educators and advocates. He also used other moms and dads, which is why I think I want to share this story. Maybe we can be that mom or that dad, because another mom helped me go like, oh no, it's going to be okay. This is kind of what it looks like. And I began to understand. So I actually, year 3, I'm way less nervous or way less concerned about sending her across the country. And I'm like, a Christian program? Really? So I would actually be not like putting her in the hands of my brothers and sisters in Christ. And really? And we did some research, and it was one of the 12 that we ended up applying for. And she got invited to so many interviews. She got invited to both of the rejected schools, year 1, year 2 rejectors. She was invited to interview and do preview days at both of those schools, as well as this new program, SEU, and a few others. And she was accepted by about 6 of the 12. She was rejected by what I always had thought was the number 1 top. And what I really honestly had my sights set on since she was in 6th grade. But again, God taught me so much about his path and his plan because she was rejected there. And honestly, I don't know if there's any like tangible reason that she was rejected. I think that that's not what God had for her. That was not his path for her. And as we got down to making the decision, and as we got down to Addie making the decision, and she made a very clear decision with very clear reasons why. And when she announced where she was going and that it was going to be the one that was like all the way across the country, that it was the Christian program, my heart immediately was just like, this is what we've been waiting for 3 years. That's why. And I have no doubt how prepared she is and ready she is. And so, and for me, like that's what it means for me to live significantly, is not get into the program that's considered the best in the world's eyes. Because the program that I had my sights on it's very well known. It's very well run. I mean, it's a premier program. And I think there was a part of me that wanted that validation on Addie. Like, see, I told you guys she's worthy. Look, she just got into this premier prestigious program. I told you she's worthy. And the Lord basically said, yeah, that's the validation of the world. I'm validating you because I'm putting her in a program where she's going to continue to grow in her walk with me. I'm validating her with what is significant to me. And it's her shaping of her faith and the path and the plan that I have forward. And I think that Addie needs SEU. And I'm really excited that SEU gets to get Addie.
Yes. Well, and the other part of this in our own like walk with God, it's a question I have to ask myself a lot. And will I be honest with myself here? And that is, am I willing to let God interrupt me? Mm-hmm. Am I willing to let God apprehend what my expectation is, or alter my course? As you said, we plan our course, but the Lord orders our steps. Am I willing to say, okay, I'm going to take a left at the next stop sign? I don't like stop signs, like, am I willing to do that? And I will say that in this process, as you said, this came in a way that was not on our radar. And then I was personally super delighted to watch how God did begin to lead us. I remember very well being on a Zoom. It was like an exploratory Zoom. And I think you were traveling. You weren't there. It was just me and Addie. And we went on this Zoom with the team at Southeastern. And I began listening to them describe the program, and they're doing an incredible job. I'm so excited about what's going on there. I mean, honestly, it's top notch as far as I'm concerned when I've looked at a lot of things. But there was a different thing. There was something distinctive on it. And I felt like something on my heart, and it kind of really surprised me. I'm like, wait a minute. This is like, I thought I was just kind of going through the motions on this one. This got like Jesus on it for us. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. And then Addie began to go like, oh, I mean, it was very interesting. Mm-hmm. And then we got invited, as you said, to go to the big, whatever prestigious program that we really, really wanted. And I remember saying to you one time, because we were meeting there on airplanes. Yeah. We were going like, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe okay with it not being that thing, because there's something over there that we got to go check out. Like, something's there. We had been asking ourselves these, well, what if questions all the way along the line. I wonder if like God's got something here. And then when God came in and did what he does, when he says, my thoughts are not like your thoughts.
Right.
My ways aren't like your ways. So much higher. When you actually begin to walk in that belief that God, like a loving father, has good gifts for his kids, that's hard to believe when you get the rejection. Right. It's hard to believe when you get the diagnosis or the when it feels like the gavel falls. But to know that we actually have a heavenly father who has his own gavel, and he hasn't pronounced death sentence on us. He's spoken life to us. And he takes even the things that feel like gavel verdicts. And he was the first one to sort of come up with the idea of what if. Well, yeah, but there's more here. And we got to be a part of that. Now, I'm super cognizant as we tell our story about this of listeners that are in lots of different kinds of situations, kids in lots of different places. Some who that's not going to be their path, right? That it's not, living independently isn't even it's not on the table for them. We're not in a spot where we think Addison's life is more significant because she's able to do that. No. And in fact, some of what we had to bump into and push back against was an ableist mindset, even within the community for intellectually disabled people, that said, well, you'll have an opportunity or you'll be advanced as long as you don't act like you have an intellectual disability, right? Or it's like if you've got it together more, then you'll have opportunity. I reject that wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. This is not about someone's ability or disability. Mm-hmm. This is about God has a plan. Yeah. He has a course. Yeah. And it doesn't look like what I think it's going to look like a lot of the time. Right. And you used this analogy last time, and we see our lives this way, at like a bowling alley. Mm-hmm. When you're good at bowling, which I am terrible. You throw a lot of gutter balls. I beat you last time we bowled a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I don't recall that you beat me, but okay. But that's good. No, I think you did beat me. But like for the little kids, when you first started, they've got the little bumpers that roll up so that you can't throw a gutter ball. And then they don't even sometimes even make you throw it. They just give you like a little ramp and you just kind of let the thing go down. I feel like a little kid most of the time in my life bowling with the bumpers up. And God in his graciousness, I'm oriented toward him. That is my desire to pursue him. But my ball doesn't always fly straight. Mm-hmm. I bump, I ping, I pong. But you know what? His guidance in my life, his ordering of my steps means that He will guide and direct me. I'm knocking down pins at the end. I've been already given that. And I think that that's one of the encouragements that I want to leave, is that he hems us in like that. And that if that is our pursuit of him, that he delivers on the destination according to his purposes and his plan. And Addison very clearly articulated, and maybe we could get into this, even when she received acceptance from the second most prestigious school simultaneously. Yeah. And she went, and it was that sweatshirt that she had thrown in the trash on year one. I'm glad I pulled that thing out of the trash, because she went, she did well, she was accepted into that program. And I remember having the conversation on the drive home. Now we're looking at two options that we were looking at. And she said, I'm going to Florida. Yeah. That was great. And that was nice. And I like that. And that was whatever. But I've already made my decision. I've already made my choice. Florida is for me.
Yep.
And that knowing that is present in her heart,
yes,
confirmed by a knowing present in our heart, just aligning with something that was true of the heart of God long before we even knew about it. But here it is, and it is aligned. And that's a tremendous confirmation of a faith walk that is exactly what I want. I not only Addison to walk out, my other children to walk out. I want to walk that out every single day.
And I think that's what I want to kind of end with as we are talking about all of this possibility and what has occurred in the life of our daughter. I know there's a lot of families that listen and maybe are behind us in the journey. Their kids are younger. Maybe they just are receiving some kind of a diagnosis. And this feels like hopeful, but then also outlandish. And then I think that the whole point, though, is that, one, there is possibility, and to advocate for it and fight for it and put your child in the rooms that they need to be in, and don't hold back. Don't take no for an attitude. Those things are super important. And it does require a little grit with a ton of grace, but also to have this like heart set and mindset that is really this posture of surrender to God, saying, okay, I am going to fight, and I'm going to advocate, and I'm going to believe, and I'm going to research, and I'm going to see the options. And then I'm going to say, and now, Lord, make my child the best of what you created her to be.
That's exactly right.
What you created her to be. And the path may not be a post-secondary education program of sorts. The path may not be independent living. It could be, but that may not be. And that doesn't mean one is better or worse, because it's about becoming who God created you and your child to be. And the whole process just taught me, when I have that heart set and that mindset and this posture of surrender, my heart, and then guiding my child in that posture, but also leading my child and giving my child to God in that way. He's hers. I'm not going to miss it. And she's not going to miss out. And she is going to have every opportunity that is due her. And it will come to her, because God, if it's in Jesus' name, if it is for her, then it will happen. It's just a matter of time. And it is not for her, it's just not going to happen. And as we left the most prestigious school that I had my eyes set on to me and what I wanted, we left, and she had a great time, and she thought she'd killed it with the interview, and she enjoyed going around the campus. And I did look at her and I said, well, Addie, you did the best that you absolutely could. We have given it our all 3 years now. In Jesus' name, if it's for you, it's going to happen. If it's not, it won't. And when it didn't happen, and when she got rejected from that school, I remember her words were like, how could they reject me? I did everything they asked. I've tried so hard. And I was like, I cried too. I was like, I know, I'm so sad. I'm so sad, Addie. But that they did reject you and you don't have a chance. Do you want to try again? Do you want to wait and see what other schools come back? And she was like, I want to wait and see what other schools. Maybe it's just not for me. And now I'm going to go to bed, Mom, because I'm really tired. Mm-hmm. And she was quite resilient, more resilient than me. But then I had to remember, if it's for her, in Jesus' name, when we pray that prayer, it's your will be done. And if it's for your child, it will happen. And if it's not for your child, then he will direct another path that will enable your child to be exactly who he's designed and created them to be. And that is the hope that I want to leave people with. And really the lesson that I've learned even for myself and my other kids in this process.
Yes. And I think there's something to receive and take in, and then there's something to do with it.
Okay.
So there's the receiving of hope, and all the things you just said are so right on. And then what do I do with that every single day? My encouragement is kind of like our friend Heather Avis, our friends at the Lucky Few podcast, would say, now go shout the worth of the people that you come across. That person might be in your own home. That person might be in a home next door, at a school nearby, at your church, on your sports team. Be unapologetic to shout the worth, no matter where they're at or what they can or cannot do. Because every single person that I have ever met has a special need. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You might cover yours up better than some. You know, a lot of people I know work really hard at camouflaging theirs. But everybody's in that spot. And your life and mine, Addison's life, the lives of individuals with intellectual disabilities and all sorts of other disabilities around the world, their life is significant, not because of what they can or cannot do. Life's significant because they were formed and made by their Creator, who imbued them with intrinsic worth. And so we're on Jesus' ground when we stand up and shout and amplify and just bullhorn the worth and value of people. So we take in the hope that God is in control, and then we go outside and say, and because he's in control and has declared value in people around, I want everybody to know our lives are made better when we help other people win, when we lift others and we love others. So that's what I want to leave everybody with too, is receive that encouragement and then go out and yell, go out and shout and amplify the worth of the people that come across your radar this day.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to our story and Addie's journey. And I think what Marcus just said, as listeners, that's probably one of the best things you can do to support the Significant Life. We do have a foundation that we just launched. We'll talk more about that, but really to go and shout the worth and support programs and people like Addie by being open and valuing them as a wonderful part of the society, simply for who they are and all of their differences. So thank you so much for listening today. And we will see you again next week.